For weddings, events, and the prom, lifeproductions.com.
Unit is here for, but he's coming in this direction. Now the sheriff's unit picked up, I guess, a prisoner. I'm not sure, and they're driving away. They opened the doors and closed them. I didn't see anyone go in, but I got here after a person would have gone in. Okay, now activists are beginning to spill out with some news. Apparently, Jesse was, well, I'll get an update straight from the horse's mouth. Mike, tell me what just happened in there. Sounds like good news, mostly.
It's a good result with an ugly twist. Basically, Jesse
was one of the other people arrested for wearing a hat.
Jesse was the first trial today for wearing. He was really arrested for disorderly conduct, apparently, and he asked the prosecutors, the police and the bailiffs some questions, and really made the point that it was immoral for them to arrest him for him having moral reasons to wear a hat, and also that it was silly because the hat wasn't offensive and they couldn't reproduce or cite a law where he had to wear a hat, just generic disorderly conduct. But the result was that the prosecution recommended a 1-day jail sentence. I don't know, I guess that's called suspended for time already served in the police department, and no fine. And the judge accepted that, so that was the sentence.
What's the bad news?
The bad news is that they found him guilty. Of what?
Yeah. So he's guilty of a misdemeanor or
It was
violation?
a Class A misdemeanor.
Wow. So that goes in his record, basically.
It's on his record.
Well,
for wearing a hat.
Of course, one of the beauties of being in the Free State is that having a Class A misdemeanor on your record is actually a badge of courage for most folks. What were you saying?
You might have some brass balls coming as well.
Oh, yeah, Mike Barsky is the guy who runs brassballs.com. So, yeah. NHbrassballs.com. All right. Okay, thanks, Mike. And I'm sitting here with Jesse Maloney, who was one of the 2 men arrested for wearing a hat. Now, you were arrested for wearing it in the courtroom. But I know I've talked about the verdict already. What's your reaction?
My reaction is it went a lot better than it could have. I mean, it's... the judge actually complimented me, and he said, "Good job." He said, "You're guilty, but good job." You know.
Interesting.
It was kind of a.
Who was the judge?
Mixed signal. His name is Moore. Judge Moore.
All right.
I'm not familiar with him.
So he was saying, "Good job defending yourself," or
yes.
Or good, okay.
I think I'm pretty sure he said, "Good job defending yourself."
Mm-hmm.
And he was actually, he's probably the nicest judge I've heard of or seen. I mean, he ruled against me, and that really doesn't surprise me because the state wouldn't rule against itself unless he really twists its arm. But he was very lenient. He let me call up a witness to the stand that I hadn't submitted 7 days prior. He allowed it, but he was very cordial, and he didn't require me to call him Your Honor or Sir or anything like that. So he was probably one of the better judges we could have here.
Now, were folks standing for him, sitting?
Some folks stood for him. Some folks didn't. I stood.
He was calm about that.
Yeah, no issue.
That's good. Good for him.
He seemed like other than the guilty verdict and the not letting cameras in the courtroom, he's a very polite and gentlemanly kind of guy. So.
A couple more interesting tidbits of information that I've learned that I wanted to report. First, the judge, apparently there was no all rise command today. The judge was very polite and was already on the seat, on the bench when people came in. People have, in some cases, some Free Staters refused to stand for judges, basically, and so this is the way they handle it, I guess, which seems pretty appropriate. And also, William, one of the activists in there, reports that authorities in there are being much more polite than they were last time, across the board almost. Also, the officer who was standing there has left and has given me no more grief and has also become more polite. All right, so the second trial is over now, and Charlie has been found guilty and given the same sentence as Jesse. Now, actually, while we're waiting for Charlie to come out to interview him, I'm sitting here with Amy from Henniker. And Amy, you had a little bit of a grievance with the way some things were done.
Correct.
Not just this time, but with the last arrest.
Correct. I sat through both trials, and in regards to, it was brought up in Jesse's trial that the prosecutor mentioned that there were signs. They didn't know where the signs were in regards to both the video and audio taping of people in the courtroom. And the prosecutor actually brought up audio recording as defense or whatever it might be. And no one knew where the sign was, and just looking both at the front door that you walk in through the security area and to the doorway into the courtroom, there is not one sign anywhere that mentions video recording. Obviously, you are video recorded because there's video cameras everywhere, but it doesn't state anywhere about audio recording.
So apparently they audio recorded Jesse without a sign informing him that they were doing so. And then sometimes when civilians do that, they end up getting arrested. By the way, I just went in to check, and I also was not able to find any signs informing us that we were being audio recorded. But apparently we were inside the court lobby area. What are you going to say?
When I was
This
in the
is Charlie,
courtroom,
who was arrested for wearing a hat. Go ahead.
Yes.
What happened to you?
What happened there was when they were testifying, this was the biggest part of the court was when they were testifying, and then I finally got to ask them questions. When I asked them questions, I would say something like, I would just say I'll ask them questions, and they would say I was putting the questions in a wrong way, and they could not answer them because of that. And they said I was compounding my questions. I don't know.
They were just making it difficult for you to engage in the process.
Yes, they were trying to not allow. They didn't want my questions asked, and so they were trying to use rules and trying to make it sound fancy that I couldn't do it. They knew all the lingo and all of that, and I didn't know any of that lingo. I was trying to just get my points across, and they wouldn't allow me. And when I did ask them the questions, I was trying to clarify my questions, they would say the same thing again and again. And they finally would say, I've asked the question before, I can't answer it again. I can't ask it again.
Even though they never admitted the first question.
Yes. And so they were just trying to, they didn't even clarify anything for me.
Yeah.
And they just felt that I was maybe a teenager. They could get away with these things. I didn't have all the legal know-how. I was going in there, and so I finally I asked for some testimony from some people who saw it that day. Richard was allowed, but Ian wasn't allowed. Dale wasn't allowed. I wasn't able to get that far. And so what happened, I finally just said, I just said I had no defense and my acts weren't criminal, and I ended it there.
Yeah. And you got exactly the same penalty as Jesse?
Yes.
Okay.
One day in the House of Correction.
Class A misdemeanor.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, like I was saying earlier, having a Class A misdemeanor on your record will probably be a badge of courage in the future, not a liability. So, all right. Thanks for standing up for yourself, Charlie.
Thanks.
I did just want to get a shot of the group and its size to give you an idea how many of us there are. I'm told that there were 20 of us here. I was able to count 17 myself, but that was a very quick count. That last shot does not include Will Buchanan from WalkForLiberty.com and his wife. By the way, a couple more details I should add. The judge that was present when these men were arrested for wearing hats recused herself from this trial, and it was I guess a guest judge or an alternate judge that was presiding. And another thought I had, this might have been more effective, we might have been more effective, if we had had some kind of a demonstration out front. Signs and flags and so forth. That might have made the authorities more uncomfortable than they were, as it was. It's Dave Ridley signing out for RidleyReport.com this February 25th, 2008.
This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by LifeProductions.com. Are you within 90 minutes of Keene? Do you need someone to shoot a video? If so, drop by LifeProductions.com. And check out Nick Ryder's video work. Nick's experience at Free Minds TV, his years of production work, his eagerness to reduce costs make him the man to talk to about event videography in the Monadnock Zone. For weddings, events, and the prom, LifeProductions.com.